Welcome, everyone. I'm excited that we have organized and David has organized another session for faculty who are interested in applying for the Fulbright scholarships. As David will explain, he's currently on a Fulbright abroad, and he has had others as well, or a previous stint in Greece with Fulbright. But this is an opportunity for us to bring together scholars who have had experiences with the Fulbright to talk about the application process, to talk about identifying universities, as well as some tips or challenges that they may have experienced that we can all learn from. I'm delighted that David Crespi has been working with the Provost's office and myself in international programs to facilitate and provide information to faculty who are interested in applying for the Fulbright Award. We would love to see more faculty apply and obviously hopefully be successful in this process. It does a lot to help us internationalize our campus and to develop new international partnerships. So thank you for joining us, and I will be here also to help answer questions later on if they come up. So David, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, and thank you. And I'm David Crespi. I'm the current Fulbright liaison and a Fulbrighter right now in Thessaloniki, Greece. Today's session is a special one because we're focusing on our STEM faculty, and our discussion is going to include how they have been handling their ongoing grants and labs and data collection while on their Fulbright, but actually bearing it in mind as they apply and in preparation to go for the Fulbright. And it is a prime moment to begin thinking about applying for the Fulbright. The awards have been announced as of February. And of course, September 15th is the deadline, which gives you plenty of time to apply. And in the chat right now, I'm going to put down the website to check out if you are thinking of applying. These are the steps that you should look at when applying for the Fulbright. And of course, there are 800 different Fulbrights. You might also consider attending some of the special webinars that deal with Fulbrights in different parts of the country, and I'm putting that into the chat right now. And then also the specific awards you can look at on this next little link that I'm going to pop in there. That's a little longer. Be aware that the process of selecting the Fulbright includes your looking at which disciplines are available in which countries. There's usually many different programs, bearing in mind that you might want to look at some programs that are tied directly to previous international colleagues that you've already worked with, or you may be just choosing places that where you feel your field is represented and would be a place where you'd like to work. And in my case, it's tied to my personal heritage. So there's a lot of different ways to think about the Fulbright. What it does do is help you build international connections beyond what you already have. It takes your research to an international level and gives you that kind of recognition, which is particularly helpful for faculty who are at the associate level going to full. But it's also, I mean, there's plenty of assistant professors who apply as well. And one of the things I think it's important to bear in mind is that it is an award that comes through the State Department. So there's a diplomatic mission tied to it. And one of the things that makes your Fulbright application particularly attractive is the idea that you're doing this on an ongoing basis. And as an example, while I've been here in Spain and in Greece, where my Fulbrights were, I've negotiated and tried to set up international memorandums of understanding between MU and the universities, University of Seville and Aristotle University, where I am. So the ongoing nature of that and building ongoing partnerships, which now can be facilitated through Zoom webinars that you can do internationally with your colleagues, provided that you get the times right. So this is quite attractive, quite interesting. The idea of doing mini conferences and setting that up so that both you and your host university can take advantage of that partnership is very intriguing. And what can I do for you personally? So my email, and I'm going to put that into the chat, which is crespi.d@missouri.edu. I can help you begin this process by sitting down and going through the Fulbright programs with you in the different countries and kind of looking at, if you're, for example, if you're a department chair, there are special Fulbrights for distinguished chairs. There's Fulbrights tied to administration, tied to teaching, tied to research. And I can help you look at those programs. I can help you develop your Fulbright project statement. I can assist you in gathering letters of invitation. I can help you with gathering letters of recommendation. In some cases, I can write them myself. And I can certainly spend some time reviewing your application in progress, and then also reviewing it when you're finished with it and ready to send it. I should take a look at it as well. So what the most important part of today is meeting and experiencing what it's like to be a STEM professor doing a Fulbright. And we have three wonderful Fulbright alums, MU professors who have had their own Fulbright experiences. And this includes Dr. Whaley Connell, who is our first speaker today. He's a professor of medicine in the School of Medicine, Department of Medicine, Division of Nephrology and Hypertension, as well as the Associate Chief of Staff for Research at the Truman VA. His background as a clinical nephrologist with research training in vascular biology led him to his Fulbright opportunity as the Saastamoinen Distinguished Chair in Health Sciences at the University of Eastern Finland in 2020/22. And so, Dr. Whaley Connell, if you could jump in and share a little bit about your experience, and especially some of the special considerations tied to your field in medicine.
You bet. I have slides. I actually have a presentation of about like 5 or 6 slides that I've kind of used in various capacities, because I think my situation is a little different than kind of the normal Fulbrighter. Can I share my?
I believe you're a co-host, so I think you should be able to share.
Well, that's dangerous. Who decided to make me a co-host? Hold on. Where's my share screen? Stop video. Share screen. There we go. Okay. Does everybody see my slides?
No, we do not. There, it's starting to happen.
Okay, there we go. Okay. So, I apologize for maybe the formal slides and presentation, but these are some kind of fun pictures that I can kind of walk through and kind of illustrate some of the concepts for why I did this Fulbright and maybe some of the challenges and opportunities here. My work I was a Fulbright to Finland. I was the Saastamoinen Foundation Distinguished Chair in Health Sciences to their Virtanen Institute and their medical school. So it was kind of a unique opportunity to kind of develop some of my biomedical research, and they were able to leverage my strengths and I was able to leverage their strengths for this dual program, which we'll get into here in a few minutes. But this first slide was one that was given to me at the very beginning, as I was kind of developing this presentation, I thought this is such a unique concept for the Fulbright and some of these particular pieces of data. So for those of you who do not have a Fulbright and are looking at this, I think this is really kind of cool. This is a program through the State Department, which David kind of already alluded to, for us to conduct research, lecture, consult with other scholars abroad, and where it's largely one of the more prestigious scholar programs, along with the Rhodes. Rhodes is an exchange to Oxford, where Fulbright is a bi-directional exchange, where we're sending scholars globally and other scholars are coming here. So it's a unique opportunity for bi-directional scientific exchange as part of the, diplomatic mission as well. It's roughly about a 20% acceptance rate, may fluctuate year to year. But I thought these were kind of fun data. 88 Fulbright scholars have received the Pulitzer Prize. 75 have been MacArthur Fellows. 60 have been Nobel laureates. 38 have served as heads of state or government. 10 have been elected to Congress, and 1 has served as the Secretary General to the United Nations. Kind of cool. I think that's kind of fun data. So how did I come to this Fulbright? For me, this was an odyssey that started at this point probably about 7 to 10 years ago. Just kind of going to meetings, talking with people, and there were a couple different investigators at the University of Eastern Finland that were kind of doing work in my similar field, and they were expressing a lot of interest in what I do as a nephrologist. I'm a kidney specialist, and I have a background in vascular biology. So my program has been looking at how can we look at very specifically the vasculature in the kidney and how can we target that. They were looking at it in the heart. It was a cardiologist in Finland, and they were deploying certain viral vectors to the heart. They were hoping to extend it into the kidney. And so we started to have conversations. And then 5+ years ago, they developed this chair program, this distinguished chair program, along with the Fulbright. And they kind of said, hey, would you be interested? This is something that is out there. Would you be interested in applying? And I was like, absolutely. And so we started the discussions, and this is actually something that I would encourage each of you, if you were looking at this Fulbright, reach out early. One of the things that I learned through my application process was to begin those conversations early with a host. Can you get a letter going through the selection process? And I actually sat on the panel last year. Those that have the letter in hand and a pretty good, solid letter with good, language from your host, that's going to go a long ways. Because if it's kind of a generic letter, and it's just, oh, we're interested in you applying, we will host you. But if you have a really good, solid communication with your host, that's going to go a long way. So what was my program about? And I kind of alluded to this earlier, just in looking at how do I use targeting of the vasculature in the kidney, and how does this relate to human health? What was unique about what they do in Finland, and especially this group, is they were actually deploying these vectors in clinical trials. So I was very interested in how I can develop my work here in the US and progress this to clinical trial at a much faster pace than what I can do. They're doing it very quickly. How are they doing it? So there was something that they were doing that I was able to learn from, and I was providing something to them that they weren't actually able to do, which was deploy this in the kidney. So we had a very solid scientific collaboration that was natural. It was easy to develop on the application. So and we were looking at various nanoparticles and viral vectors. This is just a slide. You don't have to memorize this or anything, but a nice pictorial display of kind of some of the nanoparticles we were using at that time. It was just kind of a normal, natural scientific collaboration that just kind of popped on the application. So Kuopio, kind of, I put these, it's just a beautiful community. This was in kind of the mid-eastern part of Finland. So just right in the heart of Finland. While there were many cultural differences, most people spoke English to where I was going. And I think that's one thing to talk about on your application. If there are going to be any cultural or language barriers, I was fairly lucky that while I was embedded just in the heart of Finland, I had very little issues with any language barriers. Culturally, there were a lot of little things that I had to account for. I think David and others who maybe traveled pretty frequently can attest to, when you're traveling as a tourist or you're going to meetings, you can adapt pretty easily to hotels. But when you actually have to go in and get an apartment and deal with laundry and banking and really get into the nitty gritty, you really do get to see the cultural differences throughout the world. And it's a lot of fun. They can be pretty big challenges, but that is part of the exchange and part of the experience. So this is the institute that I worked at, and one reason why I was very interested in going to this group. You can see my one building that I was a part of down here in the red circle, but this was an institute that had developed these kind of big collaborations with industry partners from around the world. So each of these buildings were built by pharmaceutical companies. So while this was the academic arm, the main part of the university is right here, all of this were industry collaborations. So they had successfully navigated about 2 or 3 decades worth of cross collaboration with industry to build these trials and these programs very quickly in the clinical trial. So it wasn't just this one investigator. There were dozens and dozens of investigators throughout this complex that were university and industry all at one time. So just kind of a unique experience. So I did go in the peak of COVID. It was quite the challenge at the very beginning when the State Department pulled us all back. I did have to stay within the United States. And then the second they opened it up, like, I was gone. I was in Finland. And so that kind of created its own challenges. So while I was able to go off and do some work, it was kind of very isolating. Like, this was my lab, and in the peak of COVID with a group with hundreds of people working in it, it was very isolated. You can see the middle part, just lonely corridors. This was one of my postdocs that I was working with. I mean, we were masking, and even my immersion classes, my Finnish immersion classes, I had to do online. So COVID introduced its own variables into the equation. Oh, I love this photo. Whenever I went on one of my flights, I literally was one of like 10 people on Finnair going to Finland, and since I didn't speak Finnish, when they first came on, they said, hey, if anybody wants to sit up in first class, please come to the front. And so everybody ran to the front. By the time I got there, when they announced it in English, the first class had already filled up. But I did get my own section, and I had a grand time. I got to spread out on the flight going back and forth. But I part of the spending a winter in Finland, it does get cold. Maybe that's its own cultural challenge in and of itself. But I thought it was quite fun to see how they adapt. They live, eat, and breathe this Arctic culture. And they train their youth at a very young age how to live and grow in the cold. So like, if it was a cold day, they were out playing. There was no amount of weather stopped them from being outside. It was very fascinating to be a part of. This is one of their fire towers that I went up and was looking out over the community. And this was a day when it was 20 below, maybe 25 below. And it was just painful. For me, it was just absolutely painful to be out in that weather, but just part of the experience. So some of the, other questions and how I navigated it, because my situation was quite complex. I am a university employee as well as a Department of Veterans Affairs employee. Going between multiple institutions, and how did I, manage my own program while having to navigate approvals with the VA, with the university. It was complex. My first advice for everybody is start early. Have your conversations with your chairs, your chiefs, and begin the conversation early. One point that David asked very early on, in regards to how did you maintain your own programming, I think is really pertinent. And I was fairly lucky, because in my situation, I was deploying the Fulbright, and how I was completing a part of my funded research and how I was building my renewal. So within the VA, because this was a program, sponsored through the State Department, and I was using this as part of my funding, I was able to go on my appointed time. So I was not necessarily having to apply for leave and break away from my job. It was just part of my official duty capacity, because I was going, as a representative of the State Department in my diplomatic mission. And it was, so that made it somewhat easy for me, I guess.
Adam, we have to move on to our next speaker. Is there any final thoughts before we go?
How do I unshare?
That's a good question. I don't think I can control that.
Oh, here we go. It's over on my other screen here. Stop share. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. And thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you, Adam. And now we have our colleague in animal sciences, Professor Rocio Rivera is a professor in the Division of Animal Sciences. Her lab's research aims to characterize the epigenetic mechanisms involved in abnormal embryonic and fetal development in mammals. As a Fulbright senior scholar, Dr. Rivera collaborated with the faculty of the Department of Physiology in the College of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Murcia, Spain, and was the embedded Fulbright visiting scientist to the master degree in biology and technology of their reproduction program. Thank you so much for joining us, and please do share. And it looks like you also we have such wonderful Fulbright presentations. Thank you.
Should I go?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna put a timer here. All right, so for those of you who are curious about where Murcia is, it's right here on the southeast corner of our region of Spain. The main language there is Spanish, Catalonian Spanish. So there's a lot of different dialects that are spoken heavily in throughout Spain, but Spanish is as we know, is the main one there. So I'm going through the questions here. How did I make my country program selection? This came to me as an invitation, actually, because I have some colleagues at the University of Murcia who I actually I've known of their work, their reproduction and epigenetics, the same as I am. So we have followed each other's works. And then Sebastián Cánovas, he's a professor there, and somebody that attended Frontiers in Reproduction here is a 20 people cohort that are trained over 6 weeks in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. So we had done that in different years, but we coincided at a symposium, and he told me about this program. And then he said, you might want to try to join us for this. And so I did. I sent the a letter of intent. And and I was accepted. The language challenges and solutions, there was no language challenge for me. other than when I was in places where Spanish wasn't spoken, but everybody there speaks Spanish because it's the main language. But I still try to learn a few words here and there with the various dialects and languages to try to interact. The project creation, as I mentioned, I already knew the work of these some of these people there, and they knew mine, and there was a clear intersect. So I just put in a project that would be really at the intersect of our research, both in reproduction and epigenetics. So the letter of invitation, I went ahead and sent an email with a letter of explaining why I would be good for this, and they accepted me. And then I received the letter, which was a very happy day in 19. And then I was to embed myself in the program at the beginning of September. So I went there a couple of weeks before, so I get acclimated, change of time and everything. When I was in Murcia, I did not drive at all. I purposely, or I decided that I would only walk, take the train, public transportation, air, but that I would not drive. So I would actually have the most, or be able to experience the most culture. And I lived about 10 minutes from the campus. Over here was the building where I worked. And so I stayed in an Airbnb, and I had a different, I rented one room. It was a 2-room apartment. So I met a lot of different people that stayed there from all over the world that would come to do short stays at the university. And from professors to students, it was fabulous. The university was very welcoming. They put in this on Facebook and also through the channels of the university, and they it was just a fantastic experience. So for teaching, there are some expectations of the Fulbrighter. There is this program embeds a Fulbrighter, and I was the 4th one. It was the 3rd year. There was 1 year that worked too, but I was the 4th one, and they pretty much tell you you're supposed to show them how to read the literature and then do article discussions. The Fulbright, this program is incredibly competitive. They're the best of the best that are selected. There are only 20, mostly from Spain, but there's a few from other countries, including Japan. There were the year I was there. And the selection is gruesome, but one of the things is the English evaluation has to be very high. So the expectation of the Fulbrighter is that they speak English to the students continuously while on campus, of course. And then I did, we had to mentor projects, discussion, evaluators, and then I gave a few lectures. I was requested by the university to give a lecture on PhD in the USA, a Q&A, and that was very well attended. And then for the research, I was given an independent office. It was in a different floor, and I felt kind of isolated there. And so they invited me to come. The professor here invited me to join him in his office, and this entire hall was where all the professors and grad students were sitting, the research labs. And then there was a library that serves also as a lunchroom. And the Spaniards, they stop everything around 2. They sit and they have a proper meal where they talk and have and so I used to eat very early, and I was missing on this. So I started changing the way my eating habits to participate in this. It made a huge difference for relationships, and I actually eat like this right now. I work quite a bit while when moving, and for research, the professors. There's 3 months is not enough time to do research, but it was a lot of time to have these interactions and to create relationships and ideas for future collaborations. But there were several papers that the program had, several of the people in the program had in revisions and needed some editing language and stuff. So I was able to help with that. All of them got accepted. So I felt really good about that. And then did I present? Yes, I did a lot. That was the topic of my presentation, assisted reproduction and the epigenome. I always thank Fulbright and University of Murcia. There was this program that was coming to an end as I was arriving. It was a 3-4 year program from the European Union that had the goal of graduating 15 PhDs that had to do research in 3 different labs in Europe. So this was the end of program symposium, and I was a speaker at that. And then I spoke at the opening ceremony of my class, which coincided a few months later with the closing ceremony of the previous one. So I spoke at both of those. Then I gave a talk in Madrid, Belgium, 2 in England, 1 in Ireland. In Ghent, they received me with this Belgium chocolates and coffee, which was marvelous. If you're not aware, one of the things that Fulbright Ireland does is that they try to identify the Fulbrighters that are in Europe, and then they invite them to come and give a lecture. So if you're not found, then you should just contact them. And then I went and gave a lecture for an advanced animal science class, and that it was together with a seminar, so the institution was invited. And then I ran into this person who used to be a professor at MISU, and she was there in a different place in Spain at there was a symposium that was mandatory for all Fulbrighters that were in Spain at that moment. So I don't teach in the fall. That's why I chose that. It was very easy for me to go at that time. I had my nephew and my mom came from Puerto Rico to help with my house and the dogs. So that was nice. Financial aspects. I received my entire salary. And then I got the fellowship there. I would have not been able to have this experience and represent the US and MISU if my salary here was cut. I mean, I have my expenses and everything needs to be paid. So, and I know that's something that people are struggling now. So I just want to make a pitch. This is very important to be able to maintain the salary here. Every weekend at 5 until the wee hours of Monday, I travel all through Spain, visiting places and visiting friends, and it was amazing. I wrote a review when I first arrived, and it was accepted as I was there. So that continued my work here. And as I mentioned, I was helping colleagues without forgetting to look at the vistas. This was in England somewhere. And from a collaboration that I started there as a Fulbrighter, we have this publication here, you see Murcia, with the colleagues there. I took the opportunity to visit all friends. This was my college roommate when I went to Iowa State 30 years later. Just beautiful, beautiful Ireland. And I saw this was I visited her in Spain, in Galicia. She was a professor I met here at MISU. She was on sabbatical, and then other scientists in different parts of the world. I had a lot of fun. My colleagues, once we became friends and started having lunch and stuff, they invited me to join their families and their activities. I travel, here is Robin Hood. I travel all over. And I got to see a lot. I embedded myself in the culture. And I had a tiny little pack because it's very cheap to travel in Europe as long as you have no suitcase. So everything I had for the weekend was there, and I ruined my shoes, which was a very good trip then. During the week, I'll go to absolutely everything I could find. I love music and art, so I went to everything. I decorated the hallway with and then the Fulbrighter is expected to cook the Thanksgiving meal. So I had to do everything from scratch. Went and bought everything, cooked everything from scratch. Here's the pumpkin pie while preparing frantically to give a class 2 hours later. And the kids did all the decoration. Here's the group. It was here, I'm wearing my Misu shirt, and we fed about 30 people. I did everything, so it was fantastic. I was the lucky one for sure. I did this guy was one of my roommates, my best. He's a professor now. He was a master's student, an Erasmus student there. She was another Fulbrighter, and they did a celebration for me when I left. Be careful because you get too much and it's really expensive to get back. But one of the things that happened is that the student asked me to be her tutor for her master's. So we continued to work after. Of course, there had to be somebody from there, and I'm reaching my time here, so I'm going to stop. But I was so pleased to learn that she won the best master's project. And I was very honored for that. Now we did a memorandum of understanding, and the University of Missouri is part of this program officially. And this allowed now for new collaborations, which now I won another fellowship from Mizzou to go to Ghent. And it was before COVID, so now I had to remove it. And I'm going now in May. And this was the best experience of my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocio. That is just wonderful. And both you and Adam really have had fantastic experiences. And we have a colleague who's still in the midst of his experience. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce our next speaker, Ken McLeod, who is a professor of geological sciences and has been at MU since 1999. He's a paleontologist who works on past greenhouse climates and mass extinctions. He also directs the geology department's stable isotope lab. He is currently on a 5-month Fulbright at the University of Birmingham. And welcome, Ken.
Yeah, hey, I hope you can all hear me. Thank you, David. I'm speaking from a hotel room in Western Scotland, taking advantage of one of the really positive aspects of being on a Fulbright, which is the chance to be somewhere else and travel extensively and see things that are far, far from Columbia, Missouri. I didn't prepare slides, but I'll run through more or less my thoughts on the questions that David asked us to talk about. And it sounds like there's some similarities and some differences between my experience and the previous two speakers. And I would guess if you wanted to put everything in a basket and tie a ribbon around it, similarities and differences would be a theme that goes through with different Fulbright awards, because each of the awards is unique to our individual research, where we are, what we're trying to do, career state. And these anecdotal stories might help think about whether other people wanted to apply, but it really is the fit between your individual career state and motivations and opportunities relative to the Fulbright awards that make it a success or not. And in terms of the questions David listed out for us that I'll try and run through, I would guess my selection of a country and a program was similar to Dr. Rivera's, in that I really didn't make the decision. A colleague who's the director of science in the Earth Sciences Department at the University of Birmingham brought the opportunity for a distinguished chair at the University of Birmingham to my attention, offered her support if I wanted to apply, and asked if I was interested. And it sounded great. And after researching the award, I decided that I definitely was interested and went forward from there. And it was pretty much a process of following my nose and learning each step after I'd cleared the previous or gotten to up on to the next step. Challenges of living in the UK really aren't that great for me. Language certainly isn't a challenge, and the cultural issues of the different regions in the UK are, I think, a real plus of living overseas. I never got to do it as an undergrad, so I kind of get to be an old man having my senior year abroad, and it's been very rewarding. The challenges that we have faced, but we, I mean my family, are the fact that I still have a teenage daughter at home, and my partner works for Columbia Public Schools and couldn't take the year off, nor could my daughter come with me or split time. So 6 months in Birmingham is a long time to be living in a split family. We dealt with that by trying to make the effort to see each other a few times through the course of the fellowship. And in fact, my son's on a bed just to my left now, coming over on his spring break from university, and we're touring geological sites in Scotland. But there's not, the costs of living on two sides of the Atlantic aren't trivial. And unlike Dr. Rivera, my fellowship stipend was deducted right from my university salary. So that if there were a challenge that I would underline in terms of my award, it's been financial. We made it work, and it's been an incredibly positive experience, and I would do it again. But I might do it differently with the wisdom of hindsight if I could go back 2 years and start again. For the specifics of the project that I created, my Fulbright is a little different. It's really not a research Fulbright. It's a senior level position, and it really emphasizes the ambassadorial role. And in terms of writing the proposal, I found that very challenging because for the last 30 years, I've written research proposals where you have a research goal and you articulate different hypotheses and you state how you're going to test them and move the science forward. Writing how me being in Birmingham enhances the relationship between US and UK geosciences and outreach opportunities was a new challenge for me. And I am not sure the beauty of my prose is what swung my application in my direction. It's hard for me to guess why it was awarded. If I were asked to guess, I would say that the most important things for the success of my application was having the support of the people at the School of Geography, Earth and Environmental Sciences at the University of Birmingham. First most, so that got me through the gate. And second was a positive interview with the Fulbright Selection Committee. So we had to do a Zoom interview with a number of people on the committee. And during that interview, for me, focusing on the opportunity the fellowship offered and being able to talk to a diverse group of academics. I wasn't a natural scientist in the group, let alone a geologist, but being able to say why I wanted to come to the UK, why I decided to go forward this, and what generalities of my research could and should be important for the people with whom I was working were probably the biggest determinants in the success of the application. I don't know whether other awards have similar emphasis or not. Very much throughout the application process, I was learning as I went along. I tried hard to do my research at each step and find out what was expected. And I suppose the fact that I'm sitting in this hotel room now speaks to some level of success, but I certainly didn't have perfect knowledge at any step in the process. So for a brief summary, I would say, similar to Adam, know as much as you can, as soon as you can, but accept the reality that you're probably not going to know enough. So do your best and be your own honest self, and that if it's a good fit for you and you go forward with it, that would be my advice on, or my guess at what swung my application into the positive side of the spectrum.
Well, thank you very, very much. And I'm
Are
going to.
we running out of time?
No, if you want to do a little bit more, that would be fine. We're going to try and finish up at about 10 of. So
3 minutes. You did ask about balancing ongoing grants and running a lab. And I really had no trouble with that. I don't have teaching responsibilities, so it was a real win being able to have a teaching responsibilities this year, being on research leave. So managing time in that regard wasn't an issue because I had more time than I ever have when I'm in Columbia. And in terms of the running the lab, I just shut down the machines that only I have confidence that I can troubleshoot if something goes wrong. And I sent my students to colleagues' labs to run the analyses that they needed to move forward on their research. For other STEM personnel trying to figure out how to keep their lab going, I would say the challenges of lab science, observational science are pretty unique to our each of ours experience, and we know best how to keep them going, but I certainly didn't find that a problem. Letters of invitation, teaching research blend were not a challenge at all because I was on research leave and had the freedom to explore what I wanted to do. And I would say that those are the real positives, and I would definitely welcome getting a similar award in the future. That said, the financial challenges were not insignificant. So I'll stop there, David, and have you
Well, I had a question. I have a question.
give you a minute.
I have a question for you, which is for your letters of invitation. Did you know the faculty in advance and had worked with them for years, or was this a challenge to find find faculty to get those letters?
Good colleagues are absolutely invaluable, and the colleague over here I'd sailed with in 2017, so spent 2 months on a boat with them, and she lined up all the administrative stuff on the Birmingham side, and I only had to line up the stuff on the US side. So that might be unique to Kirsty and the University of Birmingham, or maybe Adam and Rosia had a similar experience, but I didn't have any trouble with the logistics of the applying with my partner institution.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ken, very much, and it's very exciting to have you not that far away from me, and here in Greece. And I'd like to open up the session to our audience, and if anyone in the audience has a question to ask of our Fulbright alums that are visiting with us today, Rocio, Adam, and Ken, now's the time. And I'm going to actually post in the chat some of the links that I provided earlier that you can click on and start diving into your own application. Any questions from anyone?
I'll jump in. This is Sean Bender. I'm in the College of Veterinary Medicine. So Ken and Rocio, you had very different experiences financially. Is there an MU policy that governs how that's dealt with centrally, or is this a departmental specific thing?
It depends upon the school. In the College of Arts and Science, typically for the full year, not necessarily for a semester, but for the full year, if you're gone for both semesters, typically in arts and sciences, the current policy, and I'm not saying it's going to be permanent because we're actually trying to negotiate a change in this policy, but they actually take the full Fulbright amount and then give you 2 months summer salary, which in my case came close, but was still left me short. And so I actually applied for a research council grant because I knew I'd be doing something very similar to Rocio. I was visiting about 15 different plurarias all over Spain, Jewish quarters. And so it was quite expensive to actually do those weekend trips, and they added up. So I would not have been able to maintain my house. So I did apply. and this is an ongoing concern. Ken and I have talked about it, but believe me, we are in discussions with the provost office about seeing if we can't institutionalize a change that the faculty can keep their salaries and their Fulbright amount. It's a different kind of award than other kinds of grants because the faculty member must travel to do the work. So, and I do have advice. I mean, for the current policy, what I advise, if that does come up short for you, then you should definitely put in with the Research Council to get that amount. And actually, if I got above my total amount to do my work, and I can certainly share my Fulbright application, my Research Council application, and all of that. And if you decide to apply, which I highly encourage you to do. But yes, it is not inexpensive to do this work, and so it's very important that we're fully supported as faculty when we do it.
Thanks.
Other questions, and thank you for that question.
I'll ask another if no one else has one.
Sure.
Okay, so in STEM fields, obviously it's not, maybe it's different than other fields. The lab work is not free. So how does the Fulbright, what are the expectations for the actual funds to cover the research that's proposed? Is that a shared enterprise between the recipient and the host institution? Is that something that needs to be laid out in the application? How does all of that look practically in the formatting that goes into the application?
In my case, the host institution took care of all of that.
Go ahead,
In
Ken.
my case, I had to adapt a little bit because I was expecting to use the stipend to offset lab costs. So when that, and I already had summer salary, so unlike David, getting the 2 months of summer salary was nice, but it was summer salary I already had on grant, so it stretched things. So I changed my emphasis a little, and rather than running samples at the University of Birmingham, comparable to samples I'd run at MU, I just delayed that research until I'm back at MU and running it. I think there are enough different Fulbright programs and applications that it's probably pretty application specific rather than Fulbright policy.
I'm gonna agree with that. Like my situation got a little bit more complex because I had my travel, I had my stipend, and then I had my research. So like my travel, which was all accounted for, I think by the Fulbright Finland Foundation, but then my stipend, which was my research and for all other things, I had to kind of go through and make an accounting of what was actually like a research expenditure versus which was actually like grocery, you know. And so that and I think Ken is spot on. It has everything to do with, you know, every individual you know, situation and how that announcement is made. And so like Sean, because I know kind of how our granting kind of goes, I actually had to kind of in my application say for my $5,000, you know, stipend, 3,500 of that is going to go towards research, and this is how I'm going to expend it. So it was a little bit more formal. I forgot if it's 3,500 or 4,000 or whatever it was that was going to go towards research, but I had to kind of do somewhat rough guesstimates on line items. Like I would be using so much to ship sample from here to there, this for antibodies and this for such and such, but you know.
Great, thank you.
Other questions, and thank you very much for those questions, and you're welcome to do more if you'd like. Other questions or concerns about the Fulbright? So yes, typically the Fulbright amount, at least with mine in Greece and Spain, there's a specific monies dedicated to like air travel and book expenses, but then your stipend amount is really your living money. And so it's not really it's not like a separate salary, and it's not really divided up into research funds. It's just a stipend that you make work for everything. And in my case, it included a lot of additional travel to kind of be in these spaces where I was writing plays, because that was kind of huge, and also to be able to go to these places and interview people, again, for my work, which is tied often to oral narrative and meeting with other scholars in my field. So yeah, it's not really divided up in any specific way. And I will say that in both universities provided me with space to do work, to have an office, etc. And most of my work actually happens in the field, since a lot of it is Holocaust narrative. Yeah, it's not really divided up differently that way.
Yeah, that was my experience as well. And I had talked to the previous Fulbrighters, and they gave me some ranges of what they paid, and it would come pretty darn close. If I wanted to stay lofty and stuff, it would be very tight. And I knew that I wanted to travel, and I wanted to have a lot of these different experiences that I probably will never have again. So I stayed in an Airbnb in a tiny little room, and I saved about 2/3 of what my colleagues paid in, and so I used that to travel and to experience.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that the Fulbright Awards are, they're limited because it's a government program. They don't change that much from year to year, and so the reality is you've got to be pretty clever about how you use those funds to do this. But the other thing is that it is such an incredible opportunity to connect. It's worth every second. It's, in my case, and I think I'm hearing this from almost all of you, it's a kind of career-changing, life-changing experience that's really worth it. And of course, the prestige, that 20% acceptance rate is pretty impressive. And it is also, I would say, a gateway drug to other grants and applications. So it raises you up for something, in my case, would be for something for the NEH, or an even more distinguished award, or AAS, or, it really raises you up. So I believe it's worth it. And I'm personally working very closely with Alex Socarides in the office of the provost to see if we can get some of these financial changes to get the university to top up, and make sure that everyone gets their full salaries when they do the Fulbright. So it's definitely it's something that is very much present in my conversations since I've taken on this role as Fulbright liaison. We are at time. So Mary, I'm going to hand it over to you for a final motivational moment.
Thank you, David, and thank you to the presenters for sharing your experiences. I especially enjoyed, Rocio, the Thanksgiving that you cooked for everyone in Spain is fantastic. So I think what you shared with us shows how you are sharing parts of American culture. You're sharing about the University of Missouri and opportunities for students here, but also helping our colleagues around the world know about the fantastic faculty and the scholarship that's happening here at Mizzou. So thank you for sharing those experiences with us. So for those of you on this call, or those of you who are listening to this at a later point, of course, if you've got questions about the Fulbright, you are welcome to reach out to me and to David, and we're happy to guide you. Also, I will just say for everyone here, because you also work with students, our students, undergrads, graduate students are also eligible for the Fulbright, and we have a fellowships office on campus that works closely with them. Sometimes they see these webinars posted, and I hear from a few of them, and of course I respond and encourage them, but I also guide them to the fellowships office. So if you have students who have questions about Fulbright, you're welcome to send them my way, and I can help guide them to the fellowships office. So thank you everyone for joining us and good luck with the rest of the semester and the research that you're working on. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.